feel smooth.
Welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast, stories of inspiration, where we talk about mental health, addiction, religion, becoming a business owner and self-sufficient. For what, when, where, and why. Join us and we can be your local hope dealer.
Inspiration and dedication. I came a long way from sleeping in them pages. I got my life back. I feel amazing. Life's a book, don't get stuck on sad pages. Rainy days with no money. Hard work leads to days that are sunny. Looking back, it was all needed. The problems, the pain, the trauma, the grieving. You are now tuned in to the prisoner to painter. Prisoner to painter. Hard work, dedication. Rainy days, inspiration. Prisoner to painter.
And now, a word from your local hope dealer.
It's because I start.
We're good.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to the Prisoner to Painter podcast. I'm Nathan McDermott.
And I'm Katie McDermott.
And today we have my old friend Claude, salesman, new father, success story in itself. Claude, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for coming on the show. It's nice catching up beforehand. Yeah, I'm just happy to see you, honestly. It seems like you're doing really good.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, kid,
Yep.
nice damn car. I know I made that joke when you pulled in, but that is a nice ride, dude.
Yeah.
So here, I try to just jump right in, and I guess before the show is when I do the catching up. I know some podcasts like they shoot their shit at the beginning, and I don't do that.
Just dive right in.
Yeah, we do it before. So where would you say your story starts?
I guess kind of going back to the base of everything. My parents got divorced at a young age, and which has been pretty common in America nowadays. You know, I don't want to say I was in second grade, so 5 or 6,
Okay.
when my parents got divorced, and then I mean that's kind of where I moved into Fowlerville.
Okay.
Obviously, that's we met.
We were young, probably 5th, 6th grade,
Yeah,
something
I
like
think it was
that.
5th or 6th grade.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, in that range, and you know, and then from there, I think the big turning point in my life was when my mom passed away when I was 13.
Gotcha.
And that was kind of where I became the person I am today, because I tell myself every day, like, look how my mom spoiled me.
Yeah.
If she was still alive, I'd be living at her place. I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah.
She'd still be bringing me food. I'd be playing games. Like I wouldn't have learned how to like kind of fend for myself in a way. And then, you know, my dad passing away when I was 17. So it was just a few short years later.
A lot of loss in there.
Yeah, a lot of quick loss, and that just kind of forced me. I had a plan to go to college. I was going to go for firefighting and EMT stuff. I did some high school stuff.
That, yeah. I do remember that.
I did some high school stuff training into that. I'm glad I didn't, just because the thing that caught my attention was firefighting, which is not a very common thing. Like most of it, it's EMT, paramedic kind of stuff, and that's what I hated in school. So I just like putting on the firefighter gear and like pretending to put out fires, you know. But yeah, no, I think a lot of that like immediate loss, while it was very hard for me, especially at that young of an age, it pushed me to be more of an adult. And then obviously, you know, I had the regular issues of young adulthood, of learning how to spend money and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It is. So I'm going to backpedal just a little bit. How would you say your childhood was growing up? Normal. And then I was going to ask you slightly, and I know you disliked him, and because of what happened, I dislike him too. But how was growing up with Lenny in your mom? Wasn't his name Lenny? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was Lenny. So, you know, there was a couple things with Lenny. Her
stepdad, just so you guys know, stepdad.
Yeah. And you know, as I got older, I understood where he was coming from. You know, I didn't like him when I was younger, obviously, because he became more of an authority figure. And my dad was too, but obviously I was at my dad's every weekend. He wasn't there during the week with my mom, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I respect Lenny. I actually still talk with Lenny every once in a while.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So not I guess probably not as much as I'd like to, just because life. But
Yeah.
And especially being in the shoes I am now, being a stepfather to a daughter, it's like I 100% understand where Lenny came from, because when I see my girlfriend's daughter disrespecting her, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
And I disrespect my mom a lot.
Yeah.
Because she was a pushover. I mean, like a very, very nice woman. I love her to death.
She was
She was really sweet.
Yeah.
But the downfall to that is I was spoiled as hell.
Mhm.
So with that, like, I mean, she'd be like, you're grounded. And I'm like, cool. Can I go down to my buddy's house down the road and play? And she's like, yeah, be home before dinner. Right. So there was no repercussions.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of where it comes back to, I would still be living with her and I wouldn't have a job if things persisted.
Yeah.
And I think Lenny's the only variable that would have actually kind of pushed me out of that situation. Which
Dude, that is so cool that to see the and not just speaking in broad terms, not just but seeing the growth of like I didn't like him, and then now the roles are reversed, and it's like that's cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of a mind-boggling because I never really thought about it. Like I do remember that because when they get drunk a couple times, so like, and again I was young, come at me like no filter at that point.
Yeah.
Which, at that point I didn't like, but fuck, I understand it now.
Yeah.
It's a weird full circle kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, at least you can understand where he was coming from. And I asked that because also it's like we were kids. So it's like simply on the basis of being a stepdad, that's enough for a kid not to like. That's enough right there. He could be the greatest guy in the world because he put that step in front of it. It's like, I don't like that guy. Like, I don't know why, but I don't like him.
No, exactly.
Awesome. How would you describe your I take that back. I apologize. How would you describe your relationship with your dad, your actual father, in those years of like living with your mom and Lenny and then going and seeing him every weekend?
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, my dad was never not present. I mean, my dad still made a conservative effort in the sense of like when I played soccer, come to my soccer games and help me out with that. And my parents never talked bad about each other. Which is what I really enjoyed. I mean, they were very cordial when I get picked up, dropped off. So I mean, my relationship with my dad was good, and it's funny because I was talking to Hannah about it, my girlfriend, on the way up here. Is that my dad? Even though the first time I can remember he laid a hand on me, I was 16 and I was smoking an e-cigarette, and then he smacked me in the back of the head. But like up to that point, he just had such a hard ass demeanor that I was scared to fucking death of him.
Yeah.
Like, he never gave me a reason to be. But because like I said, he was still always there. He was always helpful. He told me he loved me. He did a lot of good. He just had that hard outer shell.
Well, right. Yeah.
So I mean, it was all good. And at that point, it was more of like, especially when my mom passed away, it was more of like, how can I impress my dad? How can I get him to come out of that shell? Be like, I'm proud of you in that kind of situation. Yeah. So that's and I think, especially as a guy growing up, that's pretty common.
Oh, dude, I was just gonna say, I think every man at some point thrives to hear a attaboy or I'm proud of you or something of that nature. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about him here coming up, and I do gotta ask, did you get that out of him at any point? And sorry to ask that, but yeah, I mean,
I always like just say I have a crappy memory. So I want to say yes, I have heard that, but to be honest, going through my memories, I don't know if I really remember him saying that. Because the thing is, like when he got sick, I was in high school and I was working 2 jobs during the summer. So like I wasn't home. I would come home and I'd eat there with him, and then that would be it. And I don't know. I'm confident that he'd be happy.
Oh, for sure.
I'm proud where I am now. But yeah, I guess long story short, he showed signs that he was proud. I don't know if he upset.
Well, in the little that I met him and knew him and whatnot, and how he held himself, it's like you working 2 jobs, that probably alone was enough to make him proud. So everything else was just icing on the cake, man.
Right.
Like, so that's cool. I wrote a note in here, but I really wanted to reiterate, I really love your mom. Like, she was a great woman. And I still remember, when she was getting close to the end, and she's laying in that bed in her room, and she, she's just so sweet and kissed me on the cheek, and I will always remember her.
Yeah.
What are your favorite memories of childhood?
A lot of times I kind of go back to just being with my grandparents, because that's my mom working as much as she did. That's where I spent a lot of my time, was with my grandparents. Spending time with you at your house, dude. I honestly, every time I crack open a Monster, I'm like, this is Nathan's house. Like, that's what I think about.
Yeah.
And again, playing Call of Duty. I mean, I was reminiscing of the times at your place. I'm trying to remember where that place was, but when you lived in Fowlerville, where
Gregory Road out.
Yeah. And we'd walk out to entrance songs with WWE belts and shit like that. That's on the trampoline like that.
That sounds like him now.
Yeah. And we would just play with we'd go on car trips with your parents, and we'd watch like Degeneration X and all that stuff like that. That's what got me into wrestling, and kind of fell out of it from that point, but I mean, like, it was that introduced me to a whole world that I wasn't familiar with. Gotcha. And then obviously my parents, really my mom's laughter, like, that's a big memory of mine. Awesome. And playing with her, like, in a pool, because she was so small and I was such a big kid, so like I could just grab her and throw her. And she just had a blast with it.
You guys did have a pool, didn't you?
We did.
Yeah. I do remember that faintly now. Yeah, I did. Didn't your grandparents live right across the road from you?
Right next door.
I thought so. Okay,
right
I thought that.
Yeah, so like me and Austin, we'd go out and we'd play war or whatever, and my grandpa would come out, which I actually have his replica Civil War revolvers.
Oh wow! I remember that, man.
And he'd come out, and you'd hear the gun cock behind his back. He'd be like, "I'll be your Huckleberry."
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was a lot of core memories there.
God, you just unlocked one of mine, man. I remember Austin shot you in the eye at one of your birthday parties with the and you wanted to beat. I think you might have beat him up. I don't remember. But you were mad. Yeah. He got
a lot of airsoft wars there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Any pets? And I asked that because there's one that I'm thinking of specifically, but any pets?
Yeah. No, I mean, the one you're thinking of specifically, Happy the chinchilla. I got that from my uncle. And I truthfully have no idea what happened to that chinchilla. I think actually when Mama passed away, I think Lenny gave it to one of his nieces.
Okay.
And then
it was just such a unique animal that I've never met a chinchilla, never probably will again, but I remember that chinchilla.
Yeah. I've seen one do a dust bath.
Yeah,
the dust bath is
interesting. Yeah, but
like,
the thing,
don't they mold if they get wet?
Yeah. Well, their fur will fall off or something along that line if they get wet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah, well, because they're wild animals. Like they are in the wild. And they're around like volcanoes and stuff, and it's that volcanic ash that they'll. Okay. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Could you use like Damascus earth to like bathe them?
No idea. Okay. Because again, I was so young. So like I think it was like a special chinchilla sand bath you get at the pet store. You just put it in a bowl, and then they just get in there and just flop around. But no, I remember my uncle named him Happy just because he had a 2-story cage, and if he was on the second story, you could see why he was so happy. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that was my preferred uncle.
Yeah. Took me a second.
But I had a couple cats growing up, and then I didn't really have any dogs. At least my mom's house. My dad, when he moved in with my stepmom, he had a couple dogs, but
2 pretty big ones, right? If I remember.
Yeah, they had some big ones. They had some small ones. She ended up doing like a pet rescue thing.
Oh, that's cool.
So there's some revolving dogs in there. Right now I have 2 cats.
Nice. How was your and I'm just trying to go a little bit in line, and it's fine that we go all over the place.
Sure. Yeah.
That's so. How was school for you? What was your favorite part of school, and what was your favorite subject?
So school was pretty good for me. Funny enough, I got some of my more recent, what are they called? Report cards. And a subject I thought I was doing super good at. Like I remember doing really good at. I was not doing really good at. I thought I was getting like D's and C's. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But I think when I graduated, it was. I mean, I had like a 3.6 or 3.8 or something.
That's pretty damn good.
I mean, it wasn't
Pretty
bad.
damn
But
good.
granted, senior year, I took the easiest route I could.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I'd say overall, what always interested me was history.
Right.
And that was probably the easiest time. And that's just obviously a lot of history is wars, and I find wars to be very interesting to learn about, everything like that.
Fun fact, I don't remember the exact war, but the shortest war in the history of the planet was only 38 minutes long.
I didn't know.
I didn't know that.
I'm good at trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of like interest. Obviously, World War II is one of the biggest ones. I find Vietnam to be a very interesting war to learn about and everything like that. So I remember actually when I moved away from Fowlerville and I went to Langford, we had a history teacher named Mr. Williams.
Okay.
He was an all right guy, kind of a hard ass, all right guy. And I remember we were talking about World War II, and I said Japs, and that wasn't a very friendly thing to say.
Okay.
I mean, in my mind, I was like, Jap, it's short for Japanese.
Yeah,
I didn't mean it in any way, you know. But he's like, whoa, you can't talk like that.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it like in an aggressive way.
Yeah. That's like calling an Irishman a Mick. Yeah. I get it. I get it.
Jap is also Jewish American princess, which is a thing
Mhm.
for.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and you lined this up perfect for me. Thank you. I've got it. And this is so moving schools. How was moving to a new school for you? Because you were 13 or 14, right? When you moved.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how was that transition?
That was hard.
Yeah, I bet.
And there's one funny story that I hope I'll never forget. So my mom passed away, right? And that was a very hard time because it was so weird. It was so surreal. Because I wasn't seeing my dad while my mom was like super, super sick, right? But I wasn't going to school either. I was just at home. I was spending time with her when I could. And then Lenny told me one day, he's like, hey, your mom's getting pretty bad. You're going to go to your dad's this weekend. He said, I think you should go to your dad's this weekend.
I got you.
And he said, I think you should say your final goodbyes.
Understood.
And I was, like I said, 13, right? So I go in, I shut
That's
the
hard to
door.
hear,
It
man.
was rough.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the thing that blows my mind is that while my mom was on her deathbed, she said, because I went through everything. I was like, I want to be the man you want me to be. You know, I'm going to grow up and make you proud, and all this and that and the other. And she just looked at me and smiled, and she said, you know, I love you so much. And fuck, man, sometimes that, like, thinking about that makes me want to go to tears.
You saying it's almost bringing me to tears,
if-
honestly,
If
dude.
you don't mind me asking, what did she pass from?
She had cancer.
Okay.
So same with my father. And it was the hardest part with that, and I'm very thankful for everything that was given to me at that time, because so she had cancer. She actually went into remission, I want to say, for 6 months to a year. And then we were all happy, right? And then all of a sudden, bam, it came back.
Yep.
So, but within that time, we were actually able, I don't remember, it was some charity that we got money from, and then our coworkers chipped in and gave us some money, and we were able to go on a cruise and spend
That's
time as a
sweet.
family.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
cool,
So
man.
we flew down to Fort Lauderdale, got on a cruise ship, went to Grand Cayman, Jamaica,
Wow.
and then came back there, and it was a Carnival cruise.
Oh.
That was a blast.
Yeah,
we
I
went to
bet,
karaoke
man.
every night,
Cool.
like that.
Did you like get off at the ports? Did you get to like?
Yes, yeah, we did excursions.
Cool.
So in Grand Cayman, I want to say we swam with stingrays.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that was scary as hell.
Yeah,
That was like shortly after the Seabird.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did you punch one for my bro? Like,
But it was weird too, because they're wild stingrays. So you get on this boat and I'm trying to remember, because it was Grand Cayman, Key West. So I think Grand Cayman we swam with dolphins, Key West. No, it was the other way around. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Might not be in the actual order, but I know we swam with stingrays, swam with dolphins, and then when we went to Jamaica, we were on the beach. But when we swam with stingrays, you took a boat probably a mile, 2 miles out to like a sandbar.
Okay.
And the guides are like, hey, they're wild stingrays, but they account for tourism to feed them and everything like that. So they're nice. All right. I'm 13, right? So I'm like, okay. So But I'm in there and I'm on my tippy toes and the water's like right here.
Mhm.
So as I'm kind of wading through, they're showing us how to feed the stingrays. A guy picks up a stingray and he's like, "Yep, here's the squid. You grab the squid and you have to tuck your thumb in,
Okay.
so that way, because they have like their teeth go up and in.
It's like a beak kind of.
Well, it's like they're really sharp teeth, but they use suction, and then they just kind of their teeth go up like that.
Like bring it in almost. Yeah.
So they're like, as soon as you feel suction, let go, otherwise you're gonna get cut. And they're like, do not wipe your hand on your legs with the slime on the, because they'll come up and they'll start sucking on your leg.
Oh,
because they'll taste, they'll smell it. So
and then they'll eat your damn leg. Bite your leg.
Right.
You'll be mad.
Right.
Yeah.
So I fed a squid to the guy, to the one that the guy was holding, and I was like, cool. I'm gonna go back to the boat because that's all I need to do, right? And so I'm like hopping back and forth trying to get to the boat, and I see a wave coming, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I look behind me, there's just a stingray just kind of fluttering right under me. And I was like, oh, and I gasped, mouthful of salt water, wave carried me. I stepped on the stingray. It just went, gone, right? I was like, oh, I need to get on the boat.
Yeah.
So I got on the boat, and I had to hear this lady screaming the whole way back because she did the thing where she wiped her hand, and stingray like bit her on the leg, and they were pouring alcohol on it. So like
that burned, I'm sure.
So she was screaming the whole ride back. And then we swam with dolphins, and when we were on the beach in Jamaica, we actually saw sea turtles hatch.
Cool.
Oh, that's so
which
cool.
was really sweet. But yeah, no, all in all, a blast.
Sounds like a really good way to. Sorry to interrupt you right there.
No, you're good.
That sounds like a really good way to remember. There's a lot of good memories of your mom. That sounds like a hell of a good memory for what happened shortly after that.
No, 100%. And I mean, it was hard because she was in a wheelchair the whole time. She couldn't really move well. But it was still cool because she was just on the beach in Jamaica getting her fucking hair braided with beads and everything, and she's just having a blast. So when I went with my dad that weekend, I think I left on Friday, and if I remember right, she passed away the morning of Saturday.
Okay.
So it's like she waited for me to say my final goodbyes.
She was ready.
And I remember I slept on the couch in the living room, and my dad came out and he's like, "Hey, your mom passed away last night." And I forced myself to cry. Yeah. Because at that point I was expecting it. And I was like, I don't want my dad to put me think I'm some kind of
fucking psycho.
And I don't cry, So I forced myself to cry. And then what happened is my dad wanted me to finish up at least a semester in Fowlerville.
That's nice of him. That's very nice.
I was living with my dad in Langsburg, and he was driving me to Fowlerville every morning.
Oh shit, that's like a 45-hour drive.
45 minutes.
45 hours. That's a long drive.
My bad.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot of driving, and he did it just to kind of let me say goodbye to my friends and do everything like that. And I remember the hardest part, like I was handing in my books to teachers, and like they were like, "Hey, good luck," and that was hard.
Yeah,
and that made me cry, because all the teachers were being very supportive in that. And but there was one teacher, and I cannot for the life of me remember her name. Very sweet lady. I want to say she taught my English class, and when she heard about my mom and everything, she was very sympathetic. And they wanted to throw a pancake party for me the last day, but they wanted to keep it a surprise. So I ended up hearing about it. Yeah. Because there's a couple loudmouths at that school, right? So I heard about it.
A couple.
And I remember I had my little flip phone, and I'm sitting there texting somebody. I'm laying in bed the night before, and I'm in the basement in my bedroom, and I hear my door creak open, and I look up, like I throw my phone down on my chest, and I look up, and I don't see anything. I just see the door creak. I'm like, okay. And it just stays open, and then I hear like kind of shuffling, and I look over my bed, and my dad's on his hands and knees crawling into my bedroom, and I look at him, and he looks up at me, and he goes, "What are you doing awake?" I'm like, "What are you doing in my bedroom?"
Yeah. Why
are you crawling into my bedroom? And he goes, "All right," and he stands up, and he goes, "I didn't want to wake up early tomorrow to take you to school. I just wanted to sleep in a little bit." And I'm like, "Dad, I know there's a pancake party for me tomorrow, and I know that's why you wanted to take me to school a little bit later. I mean, go to bed." And then he just walks out of my room and goes upstairs. So,
That's funny.
so yeah.
That's a good memory, it sounds like, man.
Yeah,
That
no,
is-
it was, like I said, I hope that's one I don't forget. But yeah, and then when I made the transition into Langsburg, my dad was like, "Hey, we need to get you into sports."
Yeah.
Which I right now I'm a bigger guy. I was always a bigger
Mhm.
kid. So I was like, "Yeah, sports sound cool." I tried to do football in Fowlerville, and it just didn't work out
Mhm.
with asthma and everything.
Yep.
But it was around the time of basketball season, so my dad's like, "Let's get you in basketball." Okay, so that kind of helped with that transition
Yeah,
to get on
yeah,
the
yeah.
basketball team, and just me to get some exercise and have something
There
to
you
do
go.
rather than just
Heck yeah.
sit home.
So I don't want to make this. I'm just gonna say it, but I don't know if I'm using the right word. So this is why I wanted to do this podcast. So I just pause just real quick. So this is why I think this podcast is super important, and this is why I want this thing to become big. Is because me and you are friends. We've been friends for quite some time, and it's like, I mean, I know some of your story, you know, some of my story, and I just think this is so unique that I don't know all of this, and like we were really good friends, best friends, and it's like every story is important. Like like everybody's story is significantly important. Like we were really good friends, and it's like hearing some of these things make me smile so much. It's like you're the main character of your story. I'm the
Right.
main character. Like it's cool that we got to cross paths.
Yeah,
it's
no,
super cool,
100%.
man.
Yeah,
You know,
Well, I also think it's different. Like as a kid, you don't really see external things. It's not like you're processing that
Mhm.
they have this going on. Like you know what you know, but like there's stuff that you're not going to know because you haven't fully developed your brain
Yeah.
to understand certain things.
yeah. Well, not to mention that it's like I mean, when we got when I moved schools, it was more hard to stay in contact with people.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
we had phones and everything, but it was we're both at that point we're taking our separate paths of trying to develop friendships.
well,
in
yeah,
local
being
areas
adults and,
stuff like
getting
that.
into the right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you moved to Lanesburg, I moved to Jackson. It's like it sucks, but it really sucks. But sometimes that's just the way it works. I mean, you know, but you found success, in my opinion. Well, whatever. I'm sure in your opinion too.
Yeah,
But you know,
yeah.
so going back to that, is there any advice you would give your younger self about school? And I'm just going to chip this in here. You graduated high school, correct?
I did.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. I guess how I think of the public education system, I don't think it would have benefited me to do any better than what I did.
Gotcha.
I think a lot of younger kids, they stress out and they miss out on their young life because they're stressing out of school and stuff like that. And again, that was kind of our generation being pressured by our parents' generations of you need to go to college, you need to have a good high school education and all that. And what I've come to find out, every job that I've had has not required me to know a squared plus b squared equals c squared or algebra or anything like that. Like that's something I can learn in practice.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when again, when I became a welder, no welding experience.
They probably didn't even ask for high school diploma, did they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, like my job painting cars is pretty. They didn't even ask me for high school diploma. They just gave me the job.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and I mean, when I became an operator there, I was making a decent amount of money.
Yeah,
and when there were welders there, and they were like, "Yeah, dude, like you can make an extra $10 an hour. You just got to pass this weld test."
Okay.
And I'm like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
So I just started, and luckily enough, there was a Baker College welding instructor that I worked with before they got rid of their welding program.
Okay.
And so, when it was lunchtime or whatever, or a little bit after work, I'd be like, "Hey man, can you work with me just for a little bit? Just kind of show me like what I need to do, and I'll kind of play around with it myself and figure it out." And he was a lot of help. And then he kind of pushed other people, my team lead, which then pushed my shift supervisor and everything to kind of get to that welder instructor. And he finally was like, "Yeah, man, just take the test after work. We'll see what happens." And I mean, I don't want to say I'm a great welder. I mean, but it's MIG welding. It's not.
I was just going to ask if you did which one you did.
Yeah, and I played around with TIG, because that was more for like repairs, like more specific repairs. I played with that, and I am just not like that. But like,
you calling yourself a welder means you're a welder, because I'm a grinder. I can't weld shit, but I can grind it to make it look all right.
well, dude,
You know?
to be a good welder, you need to have a good grinder.
Fair enough.
So
fair
I mean,
enough.
so it's, I mean, and again, the kind of welding that I did, it wasn't precision welding. It was more like hot gluing metal together.
Okay.
Because it was exhaust for General Motors. It wasn't anything people would see.
Okay.
So like, I definitely wouldn't brag on it. But what I would say is, when I got that welding spot, it was funny because they moved me to they call them cells, which is crazy. But they moved me to a cell that I absolutely hate. It was really hard. I mean, we did on average 300 parts a night, and they were either like 15, 20-pound parts. And so the machine would spit it out. I'd grab it. I would weld on the support bracket, and then I'd have to fix any leaks that the robot may have caused.
Okay.
Oh, so you did work with welding robots?
Yes. So, and then I'd send it over to the guy. He'd do the leak check. He'd run it past the gauge, make sure it passed all the specs, and then we'll put it on.
Right on.
I started getting good at that because you get into a rhythm. And I mean, if I'm there working, I want to work. I don't want to sit there and bullshit and talk and everything like that. So I was on third shift, and we were kicking everyone else's butts as far as numbers go and everything like that. And then I was like, I need first shift, right? So I finally put in my bid for that. I got up to first shift with seniority.
Heck yeah.
And the first group supervisor came to me. The first shift supervisor came to me, and he's like, "Hey, don't think we don't notice that like third shift numbers went to shit, and first shift numbers went great when you
fell on the back."
Yeah. So he's like, just be aware that we know that, and we really appreciate it. I was like, okay, that's cool. But it was when I'd wake up, because I mean, you're using a MIG welder for 8 to 12 hours a day. You're standing on concrete. You're twisting, like a lot of twisting motions. So like, I'd wake up, my back was always messed up, and my hands, like I'd wake up and they're just like that.
Like cramped up.
And so I'd have to like slowly move them out and everything. And I decided, so there's no way I can do this. I retire, and I need to find something different. And not to mention, you're welding stainless steel, which has very bad fumes, and they do have, an air cleaning facility. So like when you're welding, all the smoke gets sucked up and everything. So I wasn't too worried about that per se, but I was like, this isn't the job.
Well, you have the damn toll on your body, no kid.
Yeah.
One thing I want to pull out of that, because I say there's a lot of roads to success, because I really believe there is, but and I just wanted to pull something out of there. You even asking for help, to me, is big. And not saying because it's hard for you. That's just, a lot of people aren't willing to take that step. Like, hey man, can you help me for an hour on my lunch? Or hey man, can you help me so I can get better? Yeah. It's like a lot of people are afraid to. All you gotta do is ask. Knocking the door will open most times. Right.
But, no, and that's a big thing. And I mean, even now, it's not a sign of weakness to ask.
No, absolutely not.
And the big thing is, especially when you're doing it, especially to superiors, right? Like, to ask help from superiors, because what you're trying to do is better your job and better your production, and that's bettering it for them. Yep, and it betters the team, and it betters, ultimately it'll better the company eventually, or whatever. So as long as you have good leadership that understands that and doesn't chastise you for asking for help, then you're good. Obviously, if you have a crummy leader that says no, figure it out yourself, well, you're not necessarily the problem when you're trying to figure out the issue. Jocko Willink says there's no bad teams, only bad leaders. And I kind of believe in that, because you can have the best team in the world, but if the management's not good, it's not going to be a good team. It just can't be. And a little caveat to that, I worked at RSDC when I got fresh out of high school. Okay, what's that? That is a regional steel distribution center. Okay, right on. So what they do, they make 2D blanks for car parts. Okay. So they got doors, side panels, tailgates, everything. Cool. But you're just, it's a steel or aluminum coil. Okay. And then you're just stamping out like the outline. Oh, okay, I got it. So that way they can throw it in the press, it presses it down, makes the part. Okay. So I got that job right out of high school, thanks to a roommate that I moved out with. And I became a team leader there. Like I said, I got that job when I was 18, 19, and I was a team leader by either 19 or 20, which is weird because it was a union shop, so it's all seniority. Yeah, that's crazy. So nobody wanted the job, which it was $1 an hour pay raise for way more pressure. Yeah. Right. But I that was a weird time in my life because obviously both my parents are gone.
Mhm.
You know, I'm trying to figure out the real world.
Yeah.
And I'm a team leader, and I'm in charge of people that are my dad's age.
Looks good on a resume though.
It
Like
does.
it does.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm in charge of people that are my dad's age in their 50s. They have kids that are older than me, some, and I'm sitting here like, well, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what? Like, and it was so weird because that was working third shift, and we were doing 19 days on, 2 days off. And we worked 2 12s a week minimum.
Okay.
There was
a lot of work.
a
lot of
hours.
work. Yeah.
And a lot of it was really just staying awake, right?
Mhm.
I mean, the lines would normally do it yourself once you got it dialed in.
Mhm.
I had my own recipe book, so when I'd load a part, I'd loaded my recipe and it worked fine.
Oh,
I'd
cool.
make a couple adjustments here and there. But speaking on that, like no bad leaders or no bad teams, just bad leaders. I learned really quickly that like these guys aren't going to respect me. These older guys aren't going to
Just
respect
the
me
age
because I'm a
itself,
team
yeah.
lead, right? So I have to earn that respect by showing them like I'm willing to work with you if you work with me, right?
Yep.
So there were some jobs where they didn't require an inspection. It's an unexposed part, which means it's not exposed on the vehicle.
Okay.
So their defects were a lot more.
So it's hidden and they're not going to really worry about it.
Yeah. So I would send, we wouldn't need an inspector. So I would send everybody but my packagers to lunch at the same time.
Okay.
And I would keep my line going
Mhm.
and have 5 minutes of downtime. And then they come back from lunch and I'd be like, hey guys, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
Mhm.
Why did all you guys go to lunch? And I had 5 minutes of downtime and I was changing out the coil and everything else and doing this. But when you guys are here, I had 15 to 20 minutes downtime.
Mhm.
Like that's because that's management coming down on me and asking me why.
Yeah.
So I gotta make that a realization to them, you know. And then I had a supervisor that if I had any issues, he was down right then, and he would be like, "Yep, let's help, let's fix it." And then he got swapped out for somebody that didn't do production, and I had absolutely no help. My downtime went up tremendously.
Wow.
And that and again, like that just showed poor leadership. My team could run fluently, but it was that poor leadership that kind of sent us down the wrong path.
You know, and it's cool just hearing all your stories. You have found success in everything you've done. Is what it sounds like. I mean, or at least moved your way up the ladder. I mean, that's awesome. Another thing that I also heard you say was, let's work together. I've said something along the line, I'm never going to make you do something I'm not willing to do myself. So if I'm teaching you or you're underneath me and I tell you, yeah, you need to clean the toilet and there's 5 of them, I'll clean one to show you what I expect. And then the next 4 are you. Because I'm never going to make you do something I'm not willing to do.
No.
So exactly. That was really cool to hear you say, man. Oh, geez, we kind of jumped a little. No, which is fine. It's just the
flow of the conversation.
Yeah. So what are some of the hardest parts of grieving to you? Because now we're getting at the end of this. So your mom passed, you moved in with your dad. You said around 18, you know, both parents were gone. How did your dad pass? When did your dad pass? And how was the grieving process? Because you're older for him, right?
Yeah. So, you know, I'd say when my mom passed away, when I found out my mom had cancer and all that stuff, it was when you hear a grieving at that young age, I guess, at least where my mind was like suicide. I was like, you know, was I ever close to committing it? No.
But I understand.
It was like a thought, right? And then the more I thought about it, you know, I was like, that's not what she would want. You know, that's not what anybody would want.
Yeah.
So like I'm going to be a better person from this, right? So and then when my dad, the weird thing was, so I would borrow my dad's laptop because I didn't have a computer, so I would borrow his laptop and I'd go play games on it. And I went up to him one day and I said, hey, can I borrow your laptop? He's like, sit down. Oh shit. I was like, okay. Sat down. He goes, I have cancer. Oof. And I was like, oh, I broke down in tears right there, right? Because I was like, fuck, I've already gone through this before. I didn't think this would happen.
I already know what's going to happen type deal.
Exactly. Right? Like you obviously, you hope for the worst, but you expect the best.
Yeah.
Or vice, you hope for the best. But
Exactly. Yeah.
So I broke down in tears, right? And I just went back to my room and I was crying and he brought his laptop down. He's like, you could still use this. And I was like, all right, thanks, you know. But when he actually passed away, that was weird. Because he wasn't really there to begin with, because the way how his cancer was, it was pancreas and liver.
Okay.
Oh no.
So
And then, sorry to interrupt, just real quick. And then your mother had what type of cancer?
it was lung, but it was like a small cell lung, if I remember right.
Okay.
So it ended up going to her bones and her breast and everything.
Yeah.
With my dad, it was due to his excessive alcoholism, which my dad was a very heavy drinker.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he was a very, and it was mainly just, I mean, he would drink coffee from when he woke up to noon, and then it was beers from that. So they believe that was kind of the major cause of that. So because it's pancreas and liver, he was doing chemo and radiation, but he had to take pills that was like chemo from the inside out, if I'm not mistaken.
Man.
Yeah. So at the end of it, I mean, he had a hospital bed. He was losing memory. He thought my stepmom was a weather lady. Like it was, it was a whole thing.
Did she look like the weather lady? I gotta ask. No, okay, yeah, I gotta ask.
But I was downstairs. I was on his laptop playing games, and my stepmom came down. And she goes, he was on some sort of breathing apparatus to kind of help with breathing, if I remember right, and it would make a noise every time he breathed, and she was like, I don't hear his machine.
Okay.
And I'm like, I at that point, like when she came in, I was like, fuck, what do you want me to do? So I went up there and I felt for a pulse and everything, and I didn't feel anything. So I was like,
that quickly. Wow.
Yeah, I felt for. I mean, he was just there, and again, not mentally there, but he was there. And just gone.
Well, pancreatic's one of the really big and hard ones.
Yeah. And so yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. This ain't my job, so I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I gave him a hug, and I went back downstairs. I called my best friend at the time, who I'm still really, really good friends with, and that was kind of funny because he still feels bad about it to this day. We still laugh about it. But I called him, and he was at Buffalo Wild Wings with another buddy of his.
Okay.
And I'm calling him, it's ringing, and then he finally answers, and he goes, dude, what do you want, man? I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings. What's up? And I'm like, my dad's dead. I just wanted to call and let you know. And he goes, oh fuck, dude. Dude, I'm so sorry. Like, do you need anything? Like what can I do? I was like, no, dude, you're fine. I just wanted to let you know. And
you know, like an asshole there.
But so I still give him shit to this day. It's hilarious. But yeah, and I guess at that point, I was kind of grieving prior to that, which is kind of why I had the two jobs, because it kept me occupied, especially during the summer. Like I would work at the golf course in town. Okay. It's from 7 a.m. to 3. And then there was a little ice cream pizza place down like right in town that I'd work at sometimes right after that.
It's flooding back in. I was like, you did used to be an avid golfer. You might still golf, but I definitely remember that now. Okay.
I try.
So just a couple quick little questions. I hate to ask, but how did it feel losing both parents? Did the first loss prepare you for the second?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not an easy circumstance, especially with both my parents being active, right? So, I mean, my mom was my world. I loved her, and I mean, again, she spoiled me. Like I knew life with her, right? So, that was obviously very difficult, and it's kind of hard to dive back into that because I still think in a way I'm still kind of grieving about it, both parents, because like it's the memories are kind of blocked, like as far as how I felt during those times. So it definitely wasn't easy with my mom. I would say it did help prep me for my dad in a way. However, that was a little harder because then I was like, I have nowhere to go.
Yeah, no parents.
Yeah. So I mean, my dad died when I was 17, so I would say technically orphaned, right? But at that point, like, there's no point in going for adoption or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I think mentally it did kind of prepare me to where my dad's didn't hit as hard. The big thing that sucks with my dad is obviously I spent a lot more time with my mom, and then I started spending time with my dad and learning what he could teach me as far as small engine repair and what he knew about mechanics and stuff like that. And then, I mean, now, like, if I got one of his old chainsaws, I can't fucking start that. Like, I can't just call him up and be like, Dad, how'd you get this fucking
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the hardest part
Mhm.
right now is that you're in your adult life and you don't have those parents to go to
For
for
help and stuff.
yeah, just words of wisdom,
Mhm.
at the very least. Now I
Yeah.
do have many other people in my family. I got uncles
Mhm.
and I even got friends that I can shoot back and forth with, and
Yeah.
my dad's buddies even. I
Cool.
mean, they're right on
That's
the phone.
good. That's good.
So, sorry.
You're good.
So at the point of both your parents had passed, like how did things transition? You said you had like, aunts, uncles, things like that. How did your support system like step in and help you kind of figure out early adulthood?
So they let me know that they were there. However, I think being a stubborn 17, 18-year-old, I said, let me figure this shit out myself.
Mhm.
Right. So what I ended up doing is I moved out when I turned 18. And I got an apartment with my ex and two guys I went to school with.
Okay.
Were you married to your ex at this point?
Not
or?
at that
Okay.
point, no. So we just got it was a trailer. I think I might have said apartment, but it was a trailer.
Mhm.
And then, at that point I tried to figure out jobs and paying bills and all this.
Yeah.
And I had a decent amount of money saved up from Social Security because when my mom passed away, my father was getting Social Security for me
Okay.
to help support me.
Mhm.
And then when my dad passed away, because I was 17, I got like 3 or 5 Social Security checks for both of them.
Until you turned
away.
18,
Yeah,
correct?
until I turned
Yeah.
18. And so that initially was meant for college.
Mhm.
But obviously that didn't happen. So and then me being a dumbass 17, 18-year-old, I got out and I quit this job that I hated and I couldn't find another one. I was unemployed for about 4 months. And in that time, like I'd go and buy a $200 internet router so I could play games faster. And I bought a lightsaber that was $200.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah,
That was pretty sweet. I unfortunately sold that lightsaber, but it was pretty cool. I still reminisce, but luckily I had that reserve, so I was able to pay rent and everything. And then as soon as that money ran out, I got a call from RSDC.
Awesome.
And I was able to kind of start building that back
Cool.
up.
So I wanted to just touch on a couple of things. I'm sorry we stayed so long in that, but I think it well, first off, you're not that old. So this didn't happen but 10 years ago. I mean, really. So
yeah.
But I stay in this because it shows more of the success. It shows how successful the success is because of how hard life was. And I wanted to discuss them a little bit because well, it's just good to talk about memories, keeping them alive.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And it's also good if anybody else is experiencing anything similar and they're in it. And when you're in it, you can't see the outcome.
Well, and also sometimes I try not to stay in the bad as long, but you're bad. It's bad because it's lost. But it's not bad because it's because they're great and we got to talk about how great they were.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, without that loss, I solely feel like I would be a piece of shit at this day. Understood. Just because of that babying. I mean, my dad never really babied me, but just with that and that's kind of what makes it a little bit easier, I think, for me is that it's taught me so much. And even though it was an immense amount of loss at that short period of time, and I resented whoever I could, whether it was God or whatever the case is, which I'm not really a godly man necessarily, but at that point you're looking for somebody to love.
Exactly.
Because you're like, what the hell?
You just happen to draw the short straw.
Exactly.
So I don't want to stay in this part crazy long, but I just wanted to ask. I know you were married at a young age. Did grieving affect this relationship? How long were you married, and why did you get divorced?
Yeah, so I think grieving actually took a very big part in that relationship, and I don't think it would have lasted as long if my father didn't get diagnosed. Because at that point, I feel like it was more of a trauma bond.
Understood.
Relationship.
Yeah.
Because obviously, outside looking in, neither of us were good for each other. And it's her grandma was passed away close to the time my dad passed away. So again, it just kind of trauma bonded us together, and then it kind of rushed us into other things that we just shouldn't have done. we got married at 20, if I remember right, and then we were married for 5 years.
Okay.
I think. I'm so bad with time.
I
So bad with time.
I get that.
But yeah, she actually. It got to the point where she was just doing her own thing. I was doing my own thing because I was super stressed out. I was working all the time. I couldn't pay the bills, and she wasn't working, or she would work part time, quit. And we had a shared bank account, and that kind of just it was a whole.
It became more of a bill than an asset.
Correct.
I understand.
Yeah,
I get it.
So she ended up telling me that she wanted a divorce because I guess as a man, I guess you kind of fall into a thought process of this is how it is. Yeah. Right. Yep. So I'm gonna make it work. And when she told me that she wanted a divorce, I was like, okay. So she ended up flip-flopping teams, if that makes sense. So she went to, but
it didn't. Now it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So
that was me earlier, but I know what he's saying now.
Yeah. Got it.
So I had to pay for the divorce, and luckily it wasn't as bad as it could have been. She said like that she didn't try and get a house or retirement or anything like that. It was kind of a clean divorce. Good. Obviously that sent me down a rabbit hole because I hadn't been single for that whole time. So that was different, and where I found solace in that was video games and talking with friends.
Well, that's a hell of a healthy outlet compared to what some people do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's, and I'm glad that I had that experience, that negative experience again, because now I know what's better for me. Yep. And I have absolutely found that in my current relationship. That's why we have a kid. And I personally, like, if there is a higher being, he obviously knows it to be true, because I did try to get pregnant with my ex.
It didn't work, I'm assuming.
No, it was God, I don't know, we tried for 4 years, and knock on wood, thank God. I'm glad it didn't happen, because obviously with the outcome it would have been good.
Found the right one.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This is perfect because this lined it right up. So now you're on to better things. I wrote better things. I'm happy for you. How you found a great woman, you had a kid, you found a good career, you're a salesman, all that trauma and loss, you still found success. Yeah. Perfect. First thoughts and feelings about becoming a father.
Dude, so that's the crazy thing, right? Because what was going on through my head was when I first met my girlfriend, it was an immediate connection. Like we were just friends. I mean, like you could talk for hours, like, and we just met, right? And it was kind of funny because we met on Facebook, and so I'm talking to her. I didn't know she worked third shift at the time, right? So I'm messaging her on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm at work, and like, man, I wish I could show you what I sell, but you can't send pictures on Facebook, which I get. Like Facebook dating, I get why you can't just randomly.
Probably a good idea.
Good call. Right?
Good call, Zuckerberg. Good call.
So I was just kind of thinking, like, I wish I could show you like these cool machines I sell. And she's like, oh, here's my number. And we haven't even been talking today, right?
Right on.
Oh, well, come to find out, she was like, I was so sleep deprived and everything. Like I thought we'd been talking for a couple of days at least. Like I forgot that, we just started talking. Yeah. And so I got her number, and then I always tell her she kidnapped me when we actually first met. Cause she came, she's like, let's go for a drive. And so she picked me up in her car, and then we just randomly drove around. We just talking. So it was just a nice immediate connection. And then, I mean, for most people, I think they say that we move pretty fast in the sense of, she moved in really quick. But it's because it's just how it worked out. She was moving out of her uncle's place, and she needed a place to live. And I was like, I'm not going to have you and your daughter finding a place to live.
We got married in a month. I get it.
My landlord was like, if he's going to spend so much time here, why doesn't he just move in?
Yeah,
I get it.
And so that was the thing, right? I was like, there's no point of you getting an apartment. We're having such a good time together. Why don't you just live here? Yeah. Right. And then if things don't work out, whatever,
then you can get an apartment.
Then you can get an apartment. So she moved in pretty quick.
Cool.
And then it just got to the point to where, like, I was thinking to myself, like, fuck, if I had a kid, I had a kid.
Yeah.
You know, at that point.
And then it worked.
And it worked.
Hell
and,
yeah.
And I remember she woke me up. It must have been, I mean, it was on my day off.
Mm.
Or maybe did you get home from work? So she got home from work, took a pregnancy test.
Mm.
And she's like, if I'm pregnant, I'm going to wake you up. And I was like, okay. And I was probably up to like fucking 2 a.m. the night before or something like that, right? So she wakes me up like 10 o'clock and she goes, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, no way. Because I'm still tired,
Yeah,
right? So I'm like, huh?
yeah.
And then I went back to bed and I woke back up and I saw the pregnancy test on the counter. And I was like, oh, so this wasn't a
It
dream.
wasn't a dream. Yeah.
This is real. So I gave her a hug and I said it better be a boy. And it is.
And it
You know,
is.
luckily enough.
Yeah.
And
He
that's
looks
just
like
been,
that. He
yeah.
looks exactly like you, man. I see it.
And that's just been a whole roller coaster, right? Because I'm trying to do. I've obviously never been in this situation. She's had a kid before, and transitioning from being single to having a girlfriend with a daughter, and then all of a sudden now I have a family of 4 in my house. Like that is a huge transition.
That's successful in itself, man. Being a family man is, what's the word? Envy you.
Yeah.
Because I want that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
No,
awesome.
and it's something to get used to because like I wanted a fucking dirt bike, right? Now I gotta buy like to get outside. I need a 4-seat side by side situation.
Yeah, but that's just like more fun.
Yeah, no,
Or
exactly.
4 dirt bikes. So
Yeah. right. But yeah, no, I mean the feeling of being it's surreal. To put it bluntly, I mean, she co-sleeps and when I get in bed and he's laying in bed, I'm like, fuck, how do I have a kid?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it'll ever really strike me.
How did it change your like thinking processes for different things?
You know, it made it a real statement that I got to put food on the table,
Yeah.
you know, for my family. Like it's obviously I had that mentality with her and her daughter, but now it's like, I mean, and that's changed me a lot. So I used to actually enjoy vaping and vaping a lot, and then I found out it could cause SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome.
Yep.
So I dropped that and I started using Zins just to have, you know, not be super aggressive in the family with nicotine withdrawal, but still kind of compromise there. So that's changed a lot. And
it's better to use what it sounds like.
yeah,
It's better.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I want to, it gives you a reason to get out of the house. Like when it's just me, like I'm content. I've experienced what I want of the world, you know, and around my town. Like I can just sit at home and decompress and play video games and, you know, shell myself inside. But with the kids, like I want to take you to the park. I want you to run around and play. I want you to go for walks and see different things, you know. So it's helping you kind of get out there and
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, so just a couple things because and then I'll go. So this part of my notes I kind of screwed up. So I'm going to try to make this make sense.
Sure.
So I go from what equipment do you specialize in selling? And then what are some of the most challenging aspects so far of the equipment and of being a father? Because I kind of related them because it's like you have a very good career and then you're a new father. So I feel like they like they overlap a little bit. Like it's difficult having a newborn and then trying to sell, you know, equipment to people. Like it's got to be difficult, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, what we specialize in is off-road vehicles.
Okay.
So I mean, that's going to be ATVs, side-by-sides, anything power sports. So even on-road bikes, dirt bikes, personal watercraft.
Awesome.
And then we also sell trailers. So
Cool.
you got your standard utility trailer, enclosed trailers, pontoon bunk trailers, PWC trailers.
Sounds like you know what you're talking about.
It sounds like it. I make it sound good. I mean, there's a lot, and so that's the hardest part about this job, and the thing that I'm so thankful for, because my buddy that I call that B-Dubs, he was actually a salesman there, and he got me in there.
Awesome.
So it was funny because I tell people to this day I shouldn't be a salesman, because they'll sit at my desk and I'm like, yeah, I really shouldn't have gotten this job, and they're like, well, what do you mean, right? Like, and I'm like,
should I buy from you?
I'm like, no, I'm not a salesman. Like, I was a welder in a factory before this. I have no sales experience, right?
Okay.
So I went golfing with that buddy, and it was on Wednesday. He had Wednesday off. The shop's open on Wednesday. And it was on my way back home. He's just telling me after the round, he's like, yeah, man, we got ownership. Like, they're really cool. I really like them. We're looking for another salesman. Someone can answer the phones. And he didn't even say you should go in and talk. He's just like, that's what we're doing. I'm like, cool. And I was like, well, I just got divorced. So instead of this monotonous work, let me go in and see if I can learn something to keep my mind occupied. And so that's what I did. I went in, I stopped. I untucked my polo because I'm trying to get comfy after golf. Right? So I untucked my polo. I'm wearing my dress pants or my dress shorts. I got little house slippers on, and I waddle on inside. And I look at the receptionist. I say, hey, are the bosses here? She goes, for what? And I'm like, I'm looking to see about a job. And she goes, okay, yeah, give me a second. So she walks in there, talks to him. And she walks me into his office, and I sit down. And this is the sales manager that's no longer there. And he's like, so do you have any power sports experience? Not really. My dad had an ATV and some snowmobiles, but that's about it. Do you have any sales experience? I said, nope, I've never sold anything in my life. And he goes, okay. But you're friends with Chandler? I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, Chandler does pretty good for us, and we really like what he does. And I mean, if he vouches for you, I mean, that's so we'll see. He's like, we'll see. You know, I'll give you a call and let you know. Well, he called me the next day and said, do you want to come in on Monday? And I was like, oh, okay, for like an actual interview. And he's like, no, to start.
Oh shit.
So we were laid off at Tenneco, my weld job, and
well, hell, so it sounded like it worked good.
Yeah, well, I was working the layoff.
Okay.
Because they chose a select few to work during the layoff to kind of keep things going. And we were getting ready to go to our regular shifts, and I called my boss. I was like, hey, I'm not coming back. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? Because he was trying to talk me out of it. He's like, dude, it's sales, it's up and down. Like, it depends on the economy. And I was like, yeah, we build parts for GM. Like, that depends on the economy.
Me too. Yeah.
So,
no
like,
kidding.
What's it matter? So yeah, no, I took it, and it's been a fun learning experience ever since. I mean, I never stopped learning there.
Well, dude, you're a good talker. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. That's an asset. You talk well. You talk educated. You don't really fumble. Like, I thought you'd be a salesman. That makes sense. It makes sense to me, you know, definitely.
Yeah. And, the hardest part is because we're a multi-line dealer of everything I sell. So like I was telling you earlier, I sell Can-Am, Yamaha, Honda, CF Moto. I can't even remember everything that I sell, Polaris. And then not to mention the trailers, you got SureTrack, Nortec, Discovery, American Haul. I mean, everything.
A lot, yeah.
And what makes the job easy is when you approach it not as a job, but trying to help somebody. So if you were to come in, I don't care what the hell you buy, as long as it's what you want.
Okay.
Like, you can buy a $2,000 bike if that's what you want, or you can buy a $50,000 side by side. I don't care. Yeah. Because I just want to help you, and that at the end of the day is going to help me get to my goal.
Oh, for sure.
You know, so it's like I get people that come in that they don't know what they want, but I don't mind just having a conversation with them and showing them the options that I have. And at that point, you're talking to an acquaintance. I don't want to call you friends at that time, but you're talking to an acquaintance. You know, you're trying to dive in and tell them,
getting to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to use this for, and everything like that. So the hardest part about it is the multi-line. So it's knowing what every brand has to offer, what's different compared, because a lot of them, like a Can-Am Defender Limited is pretty close to a Polaris Ranger North Star. Okay. Right. So they're both fully enclosed machines with heat and AC.
Nice.
Those are cool.
Cool, yeah. But then again, the Can-Am has 30-inch tires. The Polaris has 28 and 29s. The Can-Am seats, they all fold up. Polaris, they have fold-up seats too, but there's a little compartment there. They're both going to have the same amount of horsepower, but there's different clearance and stuff like that. Okay. And what I tell my customers is it's comfort. That's the most important thing. Come and sit in them. Yeah. And that way you can find out what's really comfortable for you, because you can buy the machine that you want and have all the bells and whistles. But if you're uncomfortable in it and you don't want to ride in it for an hour and a half or 2 hours, then what's the point of having it?
Well, it also seems like it's kind of building rapport with your customer base to know, like, they want this, but this might work a little better because you've had a conversation with them and you're like, oh, well, this, but there's also options to where it's like, You don't pick one. I mean, that's a big purchase. You're going to pick one and be stuck with it if you don't really care for it.
I want to interject here real quick. We at the end of these episodes, we get about 1,000 people that see them. During the actual episode, maybe 2 or 3 constantly watch live, and then we have
10.
been steady at 10 the whole. So people must be interested. Steady at 10.
Really?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. So it shows that
I hate
we're
when
doing.
you peak the metrics.
It shows that we're doing something right, and it shows.
It took him a minute to not like keep staring over here.
And if this is too personal, but I'm still going to ask, because I don't care, honestly. Has the newborn affected your relationship, good or bad, with your partner?
Yeah.
You're kind of jumping around.
I think overall it's been a good experience. It's been it's helped us bond closer.
Mm-hmm.
Now with that, there's been some negatives because obviously she's doing a lot of the stuff on her own. He doesn't take a bottle, which is great. I'm happy that we don't have to feed him formula and everything like that. However, when he wakes up in the middle of the night, there's nothing really I can do.
Yeah.
Right. So she's getting the sleep deprivation, and then we also have the 3-year-old at the house, so she can't like sleep in or lay in bed all day and kind of catch up because the kid has to wake up and go, and then I'm at work.
Yeah.
So there has been, and I need to get better, and I have been trying to get better myself as to when I do get home, let me take the kid, let me.
Your new attitude, though.
Dinner. Yeah. And
It's
so,
like the mental load.
And I do want to just interject. I'm jumping around, but there is for a reason here. Newborn with a job. I know but there is a method to this. Thank you. Because I am going to go into because you work. And I'm going to get more into sales, but and I did jump around a little bit. Damn, come on, Katie. So how are you managing your own well-being with this? So you're a salesman. You have a newborn. How are you managing your own well-being?
Honestly, a lot of it actually comes from Hannah, just because she does understand that because she's not working, right? So I have to do what I do at work to pay the bills and keep her at home and keep her with the kids.
Yeah.
And that's what I would prefer.
No, for sure.
I don't want to send the kids to daycare.
Oh God, you see all those videos of daycares nowadays anyways. It's
right. It's and obviously you do your research when you send the kids to daycare, but at some points too, like, is there a point? Like, she has to get a job that's not just paying for daycare. Like, there has to be an excess there to help pay bills and stuff like that. Otherwise,
also, like self-satisfaction.
Well,
you don't want to be stuck in a job you hate.
Exactly.
And just working just to afford daycare, like you said, that is pointless. You might as well
Stay
take care.
home.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
So she's been helping a lot with that. I think with me, I do get very stressed and overwhelmed at work because it's not like a car dealership. I can't sell 10 vehicles a month and be successful at my job. At a minimum, this year, my boss did the statistics. At a minimum, we have to sell per salesman at least on average 27 a month.
Okay.
And
Do you normally obtain those numbers? I mean,
I want to say my best month the year before might have been 50. So
that's a lot, dude.
And
That's double.
Stressful as hell.
Yeah,
right.
Are you like allowed to go to like the RV shows and things like that and like pitch sales there?
So yes, the only issue with that is most of the time they're during business hours. So now you're actively missing out on sales, right? So and we don't. He offers to send us to those shows for educational purposes and stuff like that, but I think as far as foot traffic that we're getting in, we don't need to go out there to say, hey, we're US 27, like, come find us kind of situation. Like, I think people are aware of our presence.
And if they're already walking in the door, I mean, it seems like they want something.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Right. So I did kind of network a little bit. Like MSU, Can-Am's a sponsor of MSU Athletics now. And I'm a big MSU fan.
Yeah.
I know you're right.
Boo!
Hey, he was like, why do they call it the woodshed? I was like, just stop.
But we got to go to some of the football games for free.
Oh, cool.
Just because Can-Am was like, hey, we'll give you tickets. You come out, you talk about Can-Am products. But the thing is, you're at a college university. Like, who the fuck's buying this?
Yeah, people. Yeah.
At college. So
Yeah, fuck, they already got enough bills with other things. They don't need to
Right.
add. They don't need to add a K&M on top of it.
right. So I mean, that was a nice experience. And then the power sports industry has opened up a lot of doors. I went to Silver Lake for the first time.
Okay.
On Yamaha.
That's the dunes, right?
Yeah,
This is, I
Silver Lake
thought so,
St.
yeah.
Dunes. So that was on Yamaha's dime. I went there with my
Nice.
buddy, and we went there at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and the Yamaha reps were like,
Hell of a Wednesday.
yeah, they were like, fucking hop in, and we're gonna cruise some dunes, and that's all we did. It was awesome. It was a
Nice,
blast. First
yeah.
time at the dunes, and I got to ride Yamahas that weren't mine, and just
And
speed
probably
them.
new too.
Yeah.
Probably new ones.
Yeah, 23s, 24s, yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, so that a lot of awesome opportunities that came from the job.
Cool.
But I'm trying to get back to the question that you asked that I kind of off track.
Okay, so I forgot what I asked too. Oh, give me a second. Sorry.
I kind of went off track a little.
How are you managing your well-being?
Okay, yeah. So to kind of backtrack that with Hannah, she does like Saturdays are normally I do work. It's normally 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
Which obviously today is my scheduled day off.
Mhm.
Realistically, if I didn't have this, I probably still would have went into work.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to, make more money.
Yep, get those goals too. and then-
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, I didn't want to miss this. Right.
Thank you.
I wanted
I
at
appreciate
the very least see you because
Yeah.
it's been forever. But
yeah.
at work, I think I have to stop myself to manage my well-being because I'll get off track, and as long because I'm dealing sometimes 3 to 5 deals a day,
Wow.
and they might not even be on that day. Like I might be trying to finish up somebody to sign them out. Somebody else walks in, hey, let me get started with you.
Mhm.
Hey, let me show you this machine that I'm thinking about. Hang on, I'm going to leave you real quick.
I gotta go back to
Come
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so because we only have 5 salesmen.
Okay.
So, for 5 salesmen to do 27 units a month, my goal is a unit a day, which hopefully this month will work. I'm at 27 right now.
Oh,
So
wow.
I only have a few more to go to hit that goal,
Yeah.
a personal goal. But when I get home, it's just a lot of it seeing my family having fun, well fed,
Big smile on your face, I bet.
It does.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because her daughter is such a sweetheart, and she's a sassy little girl too. But she's a Sour Patch Kids, right?
Yeah,
sour
yeah.
and sweet. But I'll get home and I park. We have like a little side parking spot right in front of the house, and I'll go to throw my car in reverse to pull into the spot, and I look over and I see the door swing open. She's just standing there in her diaper and t-shirt. And she's like, "Papa!" And, and that right there, I'm like, inside, but and then she lets me play video games, and still have that time to decompress. We'll play video games together, and that's really the main thing I need because if I'm stressed at work, I don't care. That's what I'm supposed to be there. Like
if you ain't stressed out, you're probably not doing something right. Let's be
Exactly.
real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome, man. So congrats again. So back to the sales questions. And secondly, do you mind if I tag where you work in this when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I don't think I've said anything bad about it. So
Okay. Well, yeah. Good.
Yeah, no,
all right. So that's fine. So I put it.
I did currently tag you in the Facebook portion of the live.
Okay.
Can you? So just a couple things about your sales, and then we will get to the end, and I give you the gift card. Just because I think we got the trauma. I think people know your story. And you found success in welding. You found success in sales. You found success in being a father. Can you explain? Because you just said all of them, so I take that back. How do you assess the customer's needs and recommend the right fit?
So, first off, you never judge a book off its cover when they walk in, right? So, because I've done that a couple times, just thinking, I get an old guy that comes in, he goes, "Oh, one of them buggies." Oh, okay, cool. So, like, you're thinking a utility kind of thing. I want to go fast.
Ricky Bobby fast.
All right, cool. Yeah. So I got a couple ideas, but over time I've learned, like if you're a taller guy, I know what more than likely you're going to be comfortable in. So I'm going to recommend that machine first if you're not comfortable in it or want to see the other options. Because again, that's the big benefit of having as much inventory as we do is when we walk outside, because our showroom's relatively small. I
Okay.
mean, we might be able to have 10 side by sides, a handful of ATVs, and
Okay.
some other things inside.
Mhm.
So people are like, "Oh, this is all you got." I'm like,
No.
no, we can go outside and see everything I got. And then I mean, it's a sea of machines, like
Oh.
a huge amount. Like I don't even want to fathom how much money it is
Mhm.
that's just sitting.
Mhm.
And then they're like, "Oh, holy shit!
Yeah.
You do have a lot of inventory." Yeah. So let's figure out what's going to fit you best,
Awesome.
right? So, and that's kind of where that's probably the biggest struggle, is because you're a volume, like you make your money off volume,
Mhm.
but you have to spend the time with the customer to get them what they want.
Yeah.
And that way they come back to me, they recommend me because
Mhm.
they're like, "Hey, you took the time, you found out the right machine. I'm in love with this thing." And
Mhm.
you know, brother or sister, whoever, you know,
Yep.
go to him. He's going to find you the right one.
That's awesome.
Right. So that's my goal.
Mhm.
And it's just having people sit in machines. And we have the luxury of having at least an open grass lot next door that we can drive these things.
Oh, and then like test drive them or
Yeah.
mess around a little
Yeah.
bit, or cool.
Which I mean, in the automotive industry, you know, 99% of people want to drive the car before
Heck
they
yeah.
buy it.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't that translate to a side by side?
I
You know,
agree.
some people
Yeah.
will say, you know, my brother has one, I've driven it before, and you know, at that point they're going to be pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the concept.
Yeah, yeah.
But I always tell people, like, "Hey, you want to take this for a ride?" "Oh, I don't want to take up too much of your time. This is the best part of my job.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm the one driving first. I'm showing you how this machine works,
Yeah.
and then you can drive,
Yeah,
right?"
yeah.
So yeah,
Do you guys do like jet skis?
we do. Yeah, those are technically watercraft.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
Yes, jet skis are Kawasaki. I do not sell Kawasaki.
No.
No.
It's
That's a funny thing.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
I get what
so
you're
you
saying.
have like the Sea-Doo, Sea-Doo,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is owned by Can-Am BRP. or
Okay.
BRP. And then you have the Yamaha Wave Runner,
Mhm.
and then you have the Kawasaki jet ski. So
Okay.
like it's actually.
I'm gonna put it into terms I understand. A frappuccino is from Starbucks, whereas
Yeah,
the frozen
yeah,
coffee
yeah,
is
I
from
got you.
another place.
Yeah, gotcha.
Frappes are McDonald's.
Yeah, so I mean that's just technically they're called PWCs, but
Yeah.
everyone calls them
Okay.
jet skis.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Now, do you do any custom orders, and what are your sales? Do you do, or what after sales support do you offer? Is what I should have said.
So, I mean, for me, generally, I mean, a lot of my customers do have my personal number. I
Cool.
try not to hand it out too much, just because not everyone needs to have it. My phone doesn't need to have that many contacts.
Yeah.
You know, but I want to be available for people if they have issues after the sale.
Yeah.
So the big thing, the most common thing I probably get directed to me after the sale is, hey, like all these side by sides have governors on it if you don't lock the driver's side seatbelt.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's a 3-seat, some people lock the seatbelt. If they do it in the middle, and they're like, going 10 miles an hour, and they'll call me and be like, "Hey, I'm going 10 miles an hour. What's up?" I'm like, "Put the seatbelt into the right seatbelt."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I thought it was." Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, you know, we also offer service and everything like that. We're actually doing a maintenance promotion where if you
Cool.
buy a new machine, you get discounts on first service as well as a couple thereafter.
Nice.
So
That's cool.
yeah, I mean, all in all, you know, we're trying to be. I mean, when the new ownership took over, it was a huge change in culture.
Mhm.
They wanted it to make easy for the customer. And I mean, obviously, we're going to make money at the end of the day, but it's not. You're not taking advantage of people. There's no reason to do that.
Mhm.
It's just selling the machine they need at a good deal.
Yep.
And you know they'll come back.
Yeah.
So I mean, after sale wise, yeah, we have service. Me personally, I'm a little limited to what I can do after service.
Mhm.
But one thing that I do always try to do is detail my machines myself.
Nice.
So we have a porter that can clean and everything. However, my buddy Chandler got me to be a very, and I'm not a normally clean OCD kind of person.
Mhm.
But like these are off-road products, right?
They're going to be dirty.
They're going to get dirty.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of my customers will say that too. But how I learned to wash them is by hand, like microfiber,
Mhm.
bucket, water, soap, clean them by hand, make them look super pretty. Come, you know, like spray the cleaner in the floors and make sure there's no footprints on the floor and
Yeah.
everything like that. Because some of these people are buying $30,000 to $50,000 machines, but I mean, even if you buy an $800 dirt bike from me,
Mhm.
I'm gonna at least do some SC1 on there and make it look shiny.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because it's fun stuff to buy. You don't have to buy these things.
No.
So I want to make it, when you walk in, I want it to be the cleanest that you've ever seen it.
Because it probably won't never be that clean again.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, there's some instances I can't get it as clean as I want to, and most people are understandable. Like if they want to buy it that day, and I'm trying to power wash it, scrub it, clean it, all this, and they're like, hey man, like I already saw my paperwork. Like if you could just dry it off, and I'll take that. All right.
All right. Yeah.
You know, it's not where I want it to be, but I get it. I don't want to hold you up.
Yep. Get out of here, gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you already said that. What do you enjoy most about your job?
And I guess, like I said before, it doesn't really feel so much like a job because when you are talking with people to figure out what they want, it's a casual conversation.
Yeah.
I'm no pressure. You know, obviously, if you're ready to buy that day, I'm willing to do what I can to get you that machine that day.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not here to push you like, hey, this is the one you want, and this is the one you need, and you need to buy this right now.
Well, and something you said when we were talking on the phone, a while back, but it's like you don't really have to strong arm them or do anything of that nature because it's like they're in there. They intend to buy something anyway.
Exactly.
Like, because why else would they be walking in the door of a motorsports store?
Exactly.
So, so what is next for you in your career, do you think, and what is next for you in your relationship? She's not paying attention.
So, career-wise, it's hard to say. And the reason for that is because generally speaking, the next move up would be sales manager.
Okay.
However, we don't have that position. And from what I've heard from my general manager, most people that take those sales manager jobs, they regret it because they could make more money as a salesman.
Yeah, because they lose the commission, I'm guessing, and stuff
Exactly.
like
Yeah. So, I guess at this point, it would be if we acquire more stores, maybe
be like a GM or something.
something along
Cool,
those lines.
man. Yeah.
I mean, that's at the end state. I don't know because I see the stress my boss goes through. I'm like,
I don't know if you want that.
but I mean, he's a crazy hard worker. I mean, he's there all the time, and normally after closing and stuff like that. But he's doing a lot to try and change that store and make sure it's running smooth.
Good.
So, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, realistically, I mean, I could sell till I retire.
Good money there, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's good enough, and I don't need to be a millionaire. You know, as long as we're living a happy, healthy life.
Yeah.
The longer you're in sales, the more successful you become because you build those reputations, you get those returning customers and stuff like that. You build more of a name for yourself.
Awesome.
As far as relationship goes, I do plan on getting Hannah a ring.
Awesome.
And that's been hopefully I'm hoping this year I'll be able to save up enough because it was the kid that kind of put a big dampener on that because obviously wasn't expected. I had some money saved up, a lot of the money went away when I had to buy a bunch of extra baby stuff.
They cost a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And so I hear.
Yeah. So so right now it's and the hardest part about this type of sales is it's more seasonal.
Okay.
So spring and summer, 4 or 5 months, man. Like that's when we're hammering down. That's when we gotta make our money. And then something I still gotta work on is banking that during the winter months. So that way I'm not so much paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the hard part, right? I gotta find that balance of getting her the ring that she deserves while also trying to save up for those winter months. So that's kind of why I'm just trying to hammer out everything we can.
Smart man, definitely. So these are kind of just our wrap-up questions. Once again, thank you for coming on. I really love this podcast. I do say that about everyone because I do. I love everyone, but clearly I know a little bit of your story, so I really liked this one. What is your definition of success?
I think there's multiple definitions. So, I mean, you do have your career definition of success, and then you have family. I think those are kind of the big two. And you can throw personal life in there as well, success in there. But I mean, for me personally, my version of success is just living a comfortable life with my family and watching my family do what they want to do. Being able to give them things that they don't necessarily expect but want. So I mean, buying him a dirt bike when he can stand on 2 feet, just getting a little dirt bike to bust around and having a big yard to play and stuff like that.
And not killing the bank account idea.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean it's just I as much as I'd love to win the lottery and multi-million dollars, but it's even at that point, if you're not using that money properly or enjoying your life like in a stable way,
Mhm.
I don't really say you're successful for that short period of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Once that money's gone,
No.
where's your success?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Smart, man. I agree with you a lot. So my one last question before Katie asks hers, let me get that back. Is there anything I missed that you would like to share?
yeah, actually, that's funny. Because I was going to bring that up.
Perfect.
I did file for bankruptcy.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The chapter 7, 13?
Chapter
Okay.
7. So I actually filed for bankruptcy. I believe it was December I think it finalized January 8th last year.
Okay.
And that again was bad debt from X, right?
Okay.
So I was on her car and a whole bunch of bills that were just overdue that would have fallen on me because I was a co-signer.
Gotcha.
Something along those lines, just a part of it, right? So I did file for bankruptcy, and I went through a couple different people to go through that because the first gentleman I went to, he was thinking I'd probably do a chapter 13 because of how much I made. Because 70 grand was like right on that threshold.
Like borderline.
Yeah. So it's like, so he's like, you might have to go. And he's like, I don't do that. So I'm going to send you to this guy that does that. And I went to that guy, and he's like, yeah, I could do chapter 7 for you.
Cool.
Because of other people in the house and everything like that. So it kind of took away from it.
Good.
Which that's the easier one to go with, just because. So I kept the house, right? Because I wasn't negative on that.
Okay.
But it obviously negatively impacted my credit and everything like that. Luckily, I was still able to get that car, albeit a huge amount of interest.
I'm sure.
Right. So I'm looking to refinance that this year.
Awesome.
But that was just the way I looked at it is no one ever wants a bankruptcy on their record. But at the end of the day, I obviously made a lot of young, dumb decisions, and I'm still young, just not so dumb. So I can correct those now. Like I can start rebuilding and I can learn.
Well, and technically in 7 years,
it falls off.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the biggest challenge that we're running into right now, even though I have a home, it's looking at getting a new home because that bankruptcy is still going to be on there
for 7 years, right?
For 7
or
years.
6 now because you're a year late. Okay.
However, you can, start looking at a home with lenders after 2 years of your bankruptcy.
Okay.
Because as long as you have a positive track record of paying everything on time from that point, but they want that 2 years to know, like, hey, are you good for a home loan kind of situation? So
awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Katie, your wrap up question?
Yeah. What, in one word, how would you summarize from where you started to where you are now, like your journey? What's one word that would describe everything you've been through to now?
Oh, God, one word.
We've had water, we've had recovery, we've had determination.
There's a lot of words.
Yeah, there is, and I can thank my sister for this. I've been thinking of like more college educated words, which those don't come to my brain too quick. But I mean, I guess in everyone's, I'd say stressful, but it's not bad to be stressed.
No, it's not.
Right.
It's
So
not.
I'd say I'd feel confident in that word stressful, just because if you're like we said, if you're not stressed at work, are you really working? So if you're not stressed at life, are you really living life?
Right. Exactly.
Right. So it's a good kind of thing. It's something to be stressed. It helps you learn how to maneuver around it. Right. Because no matter what situation you could be in, I mean, you could be going to the bathroom and be stressed. Like that's how are you gonna work around that? You know, something so simple, so mundane, like anything can make you stressed out. You just got to work around it. And I think living a stressful life and learning how to manage that stress is just kind of the most beneficial.
And I like how you said that stress is not a bad thing. Like it should. It means you're on your way to what you want to achieve or something. Because stress means like there's a fear of you might not get what you desire or whatever you're going for. So I agree.
Is there anything that you would change, or would you do it all the same?
I don't think I'd get married. Albeit I think it did teach me a good, valuable life lesson. But looking back at it and kind of again separating that relationship from the trauma, who knows where I'd be now?
Well, like the butterfly effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like who knows where I'd be now from that? But that is one point to where I wish that I just never went through.
Gotcha.
So
Well, my favorite part. Well,
It is your favorite part.
It is
don't
my
it?
favorite part because I get to give something away. So this week, so normally I do a local business. You're not from around here, so this week I went a little more mainstream, and also because we drove kind of far. So mobile gas card
Nice.
operations. They operate in more than 60 countries globally. Their team of 62,000 scientists, engineers, researchers, technicians, professionals, and other employees are focused on safely meeting the world's energy and product needs. Something that they've been doing for more than 140 years.
And they are Exxon Mobil.
Yeah, whatever the hell they are. I don't care. They killed the duckies. So,
That's BP.
Exxon was a part of that.
Were they really?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh.
So they probably don't want to, if they ever find this.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I messaged them. I was like, hey, man, you guys should share. I just messaged you. I was like, hey, man, you guys should share this podcast. I'm giving away a gift card.
Right.
And then I just totally fucked that up. Anyways, Claude, thank you. for
No,
coming on,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, guys.
And thank you guys for joining us. We will see you actually tomorrow for Kevin's podcast.
Skate,
Whatever.
Kevin.
Whatever.
All right. Bye, guys.
I gotta whisper in my ear. I know
And
I was calling him by his real name.